The Fair Trade Independent Tobacco Association has filed a court application and stated that government has not proven that smoking spreads the coronavirus, thus making their decision unreasonable. Meanwhile, the South African Revenue Service, or SARS, lost 1.5 billion rand in revenue in April alone due to the ban on the sale of cigarettes and alcohol. Let's chat to Bernard Sachs. He's a tax economist from Mazar and discuss the implications the ban has on the economy. Good to have you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Thank you for having me, and good morning to you and your viewers.
Indeed. All right. So, we talked to SARS. We gave the amount, 1.5 billion rand in revenue, lost revenue in just April. That's obviously because of cigarettes and alcohol together. This ban is costing the economy a lot of money. Talk to us about this.
Well, Leanne, it is indeed costing a lot of money. The excise duties that have been lost, you've already explained, have amounted to about $1.5 billion, I beg your pardon, rand. And besides that, there's an enormous VAT leakage because VAT is collected on top of the full price of the goods, which comprises, of course, the cost of manufacturing, the profit, the excise duties, etc. So the loss extends further. I did some rough calculations and calculated that in relation to the loss of excise duties on cigarettes, which has been estimated at 300 million rand, the loss of VAT is a further 80 million rand, and that's just in relation to cigarettes, and that's just for 1 month. And so the losses are extensive. There are further losses that relate to, for example, lost employees tax, because, as we know, a lot of people have either lost their jobs or they've been placed on leave during the period. And initial estimates are that the losses there amount to approximately 30 billion rand all in.
I mean, if we look at other countries around the world, and the ban on cigarette and tobacco-related products, has this been done anywhere else?
I'm not aware, Leanne, that cigarettes and tobacco have been banned elsewhere. I'm aware that the government does believe that there are risks associated with smoking that could make the COVID-19 worse. However, I think that smokers are well aware that they themselves face risks. For example, lung cancer, further complications from arising from smoking, relating to other cancers, and certainly further longer-term effects like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, etc. And that doesn't stop people from smoking. So I'm not entirely sure whether or not this is or isn't government overreach. I just mentioned that it could be. Yeah. I don't say that it is, but it could well be regarded in some quarters as government overreach.
Yeah. I mean, you've got the Fair Trade Independent Tobacco Association. They filed papers. They're going to court, and they're saying, I mean, as what you have mentioned, there are problems with smoking, but they were there before coronavirus, and it's a choice that smokers make. I mean, they're talking about sugar and the fact that sugar is bad for you, but there isn't a ban on that. But I know that's not what we're discussing here, but it's just a lot of issues that are coming up with regard to cigarettes and tobacco. So let's talk to what SARS actually loses, because they lose billions of rands in tax revenue every single year due to illicit trading of cigarettes. So, we speak about Revenue Service lost about 1.5 billion rand because of this tobacco ban and alcohol. How much is the economy losing per day due to this ban?
If one extrapolates 1.5 billion to a daily amount, that's probably about 50 million rand a day being lost. But I've noticed an interesting trend that seems to have been appearing lately, and that is that there seem to have been a large number of police busts of illicit cigarettes. Now, what is interesting is that any cigarettes that are available for sale today are, of course, illegally available for sale. And this in itself may be a way that the government, perhaps unintentionally, could find a way to shake out and find the sources of the illicit cigarette distribution. And what we understand is that the illicit cigarette distribution arises from two sources. The one is smuggling, and the other is undeclared local manufacture. And of course, that of course is a hot potato, because the local manufacturers say that doesn't happen. But there is a belief in some quarters that does in fact occur. I can't offer any comment other than to say that I've heard that it does occur. And I have no evidence whatsoever to suggest that it does, but so that may only be hearsay.
Yeah. I mean, if we get back to, more factual things that are taking place right now, we know that the South African authorities have been for many years struggling to get illicit trading of cigarettes under control. I mean, do you think the ban on the sale of cigarettes is now even creating more of an opportunity for this black market to thrive and taking away money from South Africans?
Well, yeah, yes, of course it is doing that, but at the same time, they are also exposing themselves because smokers are addicted to the I think it's the nicotine in the tobacco, and they need to find a cigarette, and I think that the longer this goes on, the better chance, in fact, the authorities do have of tracking down the distributors of illicit cigarettes. So we may in fact find that there's an extension of the ban for that reason.
If we look at job creation through the sale of cigarettes and the manufacture thereof, how many employees are actually in this sector?
Leanne, I don't have figures for the number of employees. So unfortunately, I'm unable to answer that question.
Yeah.
But from the point of view of distribution and sales, I don't think it makes a difference whether one distributes or sells a legitimate or non-legitimate product. Obviously, I'm talking outside of the lockdown period.
We look at the struggling economy as it stands right now in South Africa. And, I mean, we've spoken to the massive contribution that cigarettes and alcohol alone make to South Africa. But, is there the turning and the come around from this for the South African economy? What are you looking at? I mean, Mazar obviously looks at these kind of things, but, this is going to take many, many years and a lot of hard work for South Africa to come out of this. But let's talk in general to your insight into the economy and the effects of what's happening with COVID-19.
Well, Leanne, the effect of COVID-19 is, as you say, going to be felt for many years to come. We believe that it is going to take a long time just to get back to where we were at the beginning of this year, and we know that we were in a position where we had suffered from years of very, very sluggish growth. So to get back to where we want to be, my concern is that that's going to be a 5 to 10 year time horizon. I believe it's as long as that. We're in a deep hole, unfortunately. I've read a variety of different views as to by how much the economy will have contracted arising from COVID-19, and those range from 4 to about 11 or 12%. So this is very, very serious.
It certainly is. Let's leave it
And
there.
yeah, thank
Finish
you.
off? No,
And-
please finish off.
No, I just wanted to say that, and the loss of these taxes on an ongoing basis is causing further misery for us. And so, the quicker we do get back to collecting these consumption type taxes on an ongoing basis, the better for the economy.
Indeed. Bernard, thanks very, very much for talking to us. Bernard Sachs is a tax economist from Mazar, talking to us about the damage that the ban of the sale of cigarettes is having on the economy. And of course, we've asked this question on our social media page, and you can only imagine what the response has been.